So in this lesson we are going to see what is a data type, what type of data available in Python, and what can you do with them. So let's get started. In the last lesson we saw how to use different types of data like integers, floats, strings, and how to use them, how to assign those to a variable. So all these types of data are called as data types. Data type is a way to inform interpreter how to use data. That means whatever kind of data that you have, whether it's a string, int, or a float, you are informing interpreter that the data that I'm going to use or assign to my variable is either integer or a float or a string. And depending on the type of data that a variable can hold, different operations can be performed on those data types. Like when we are using integers or floats, we can perform arithmetic operations on them. When we are using strings, we can perform concatenation, repetition operations on them. So depending on the type of data that we hold, the operations will change. The outcome of those operations will also change. So let's see how to use these different types of data in Python, because there is a chance that you might want to convert from one type of data to another depending on the purpose that you are going to use that data and the operations that you have to apply on that data. Okay, so let's see the example. So as we have seen, we can have a number represented as a integer, float, as well as string like this. So let's say I say number equal to 12, float number equal to 12.0, and string number equal to 12. It's the same number represented in three different formats. So let's see the type of number. It says int. See, type of float number. It says float, and type of string number. It says str, which is a short form for a string. Now, depending on which type of data or a data type that we are using, the operations will be different. Like if I use number plus number, it is going to give me 24. Float underscore number plus float underscore number, it will give me a different value because it's a float. If I use string underscore number plus string underscore number, it gives me 12 plus 12. Now see, we are using a addition operation for numbers, whether it's integer or a float. It just adds those two numbers and gives us the result. Whereas in case of string, it is taking both the string and just attaching them together to create a new number or new object of a string, which is 12 12, or we can call it as 1 2 1 2. Now when we are considering a data type, we are actually considering the value that is stored or that is assigned to a particular variable. So the value that we are going to use can be of type integer, and it is stored different way. There are different operations that we can perform on it, similar to what we can perform on floats. But in case of string, the operations will be different. The way they behave is different. Now, let's see what if I try to combine string underscore number with a number. It gives an error, and read the error carefully. It says type error because it can only concatenate string and not int to the string, because we have the first number as a string number, which is a string data type, whereas another one is an integer. So there is no compatibility between the two. To achieve our goal, we have to convert one to the another type. Let's say we wanted to concatenate these two strings, these two. So number plus, we need to convert this number to string using an str function. And see, it has now concatenated both the numbers. Instead, if we convert the first string number to an integer and keep our number as it is, it will give us 24 as a result, which means it has converted our string number into an integer and then perform the addition. I can of course convert this string number into a float, and the result will be 24.0 because one of the numbers is a float. So when you perform any mathematical operation on it, the result will be represented in a float. Now, can we convert a float into an integer? So the answer is yes, we can. So let's try that. Float number. And let's see. Yes, we could convert our number into an integer, and it is now properly giving us a value. Now if I use this with the number, it will give us 24. Now we saw how to use floats, integers and the string, what kind of operations that we can perform on them, and how to perform them, how to convert them from one type to the another type. But what are they and how they are used? Basically, what we are doing when I say, let's say I create a variable test equal to int string number, and if I test, it will be 12. The reason being, now here I have converted my string number, which is a string, into a test, basically a integer number, and gave it to a test. This is actually the assignment of a string and to a variable and conversion in between. This is happening because everything that we deal in Python is an object, and we can perform specific operations on those objects. Like integer, any number that we use is an object. Float numbers are objects. Strings are objects. And we can transform these objects from one type to another. But when we are transforming, we are not actually changing the existing or the original object. We are actually creating a copy of that object and making it in the new format that we need. Now, how do I know that? Let's see that. There is a function called as id, which gives us the identifier of that object. Basically, the address, memory address of that object. So we have a number as integer. It's 9756576. It's the memory location in which that number is stored. Whereas if I look for float underscore number, it is stored at this address. Now let's see the string number. It has a different memory location. Now let's see whether when we convert this string number into an integer, what will it be the identifier? Let's convert it to an int. Check the numbers here and here. It's exactly same. Now, why is this? The reason being, in Python, it creates these numbers or the object location where it has stored, and whenever subsequently you are trying to access the same number, it will actually, instead of creating a new copy of that object, it will refer to that object again. And hence, when we converted this number into an integer, it actually found out the number 10, 12 already exists. So it is automatically referring to the existing number memory location. Even if I convert the same from float to integer, let's see what it does. It's the same number. So it again found out it's the number 12, and that already exists at memory location 9756576, and hence we can use it. Let's see if we convert this integer number into a string, what happens. ID str number, read the memory location. The memory location is completely different than the string number that we've already created, though both are same. The reason being, it's a string, and strings are immutable, and they are collection of characters. So they are together are identified as a string, but it's single character that is present over there. Now, comparing two strings is a heavy operation, and hence, instead of trying to find out a copy of the same string into the memory pool, Python will prefer to create a new string. Okay, and that is why we have the different memory location. Now, why do we need this ID? It's just to identify the location where that object is stored, and this also gives us an idea that some part is stored in the memory. So whenever we are referring to a variable, the variable is acting as a container where the actual address of the memory location is stored. Variable is not storing the number or a string or any of the data. It is just storing the custom address or a memory address from the heap memory space into the container, which is a variable itself. And whenever we are trying to use that variable, it is actually referring to that memory address and giving us the value. Hence, we use data types over here. In the next lesson, we are going to see how to use all the things that we have learned till now in a script processing, how it works, and how can we actually use a script to write a program, display the messages.